Welcome back to True God Code. Whether you have been with us since issue 1 or you are joining us for the very first time today, we are genuinely glad you are here. This community is growing because people are paying attention. You are asking the right questions, and you deserve honest, sourced, documented answers. If this channel has been giving you that, please subscribe right now, hit the notification bell so you never miss a report, and share this video with someone in your life who is watching the news and asking what it all means. That is exactly who this is for. One share from you puts this in front of someone who needs it. Here is what we are covering in issue 3. As of this morning, Israel has captured a 900-year-old Crusader castle in Lebanon in its deepest military advance in 26 years. France has called an emergency UN Security Council meeting. That meeting happens today. The Iran peace deal went to the Situation Room on Thursday. The meeting ended after 2 hours with no decision. The reason it has not been signed: the man governing Iran from the shadows has not said yes. His negotiators agreed. He did not. In 10 days, the 2026 FIFA World Cup opens on American soil. The Economist's 2026 cover, published last November, showed a footballer kicking the world from outside the frame. That prediction is about to be visible to the entire planet. 5 days ago, the Pope released his first encyclical on artificial intelligence, declared autonomous weapons not permissible, and quoted a wizard from The Lord of the Rings in a document aimed directly at the man who named his surveillance company after Sauron's seeing stones. And at the close of this report, what all of this means for Christians living through this season. This is issue 3. 2,514 days to April 14, 2033. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Accountability Check in Issue 2. We gave you 4 things to watch: the Iran MOU, Kushner's role in it, the Strait of Hormuz, the calendar. Here is the full scorecard. We told you Jared Kushner was in the room negotiating a 14-point memorandum of understanding to end the Iran war. We told you to watch whether he was a presence in the room or the author of the document. The answer is now documented. The one-page 14-point memorandum of understanding is being negotiated between Trump's envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and several Iranian officials, both directly and through mediators. Across every documented round, Geneva, Islamabad, and ongoing, Kushner is present and named as co-author, not a presence, the co-author of all 14 points across every round. Simultaneously, Kushner is managing $6.2 billion in assets through affinity partners. 99% of that capital comes from foreign sovereign wealth funds. The nations whose interests depend on this deal are the same nations funding the man drafting the deal. Congressional investigators have named this conflict explicitly. The framework named it months ago. We told you to watch the Strait of Hormuz. Iran authorized limited vessel passage in batches. Naval mines are being cleared under framework terms. We told you to watch the calendar. Here it is today. FIFA World Cup 2026 opens June 11th, 10 days from today. The Economist 2026 cover showed a footballer kicking the world from outside the frame. In 10 days, that image becomes reality on American soil. Spain Eclipse 1. August 12, 2026, 73 days. Affinity Fund, 1 lockup expiry, approximately August 2026, 73 days. Beat 45 primary candidate, January 20th, 2029, 965 days. The Anchor, April 14th, 2033, 2,514 days. 2 additional scorecard items that emerged this week. The Situation Room meeting. Trump entered on May 29th to make a final determination. The meeting ended after 2 hours with no decision. A senior administration official confirmed an agreement was still close but required further debate. The deal has not been signed, and the reason it has not been signed is now documented. An Israeli source confirmed that Iran's negotiators and Iran's supreme leader may be split. Foreign Minister Araghchi and Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf may have reached agreements at the negotiator level, but they do not have signing rights. The Israeli source's exact words: "We do not have indications that Mojtabi has said yes." The man the True God Code framework has been tracking as the worthless shepherd candidate, the man governing from the shadows since February 28th, Is the specific human reason the most consequential diplomatic development of the watch period has not been signed? His negotiators agreed. He has not said yes. 4 things to watch. 4 things moved. The picture is fuller and more unstable than it was 30 days ago. Chapter 2. The Situation Room. And what happened next? On May 28, 2026, the White House confirmed that US and Iranian negotiators had reached agreement on a Memorandum of Understanding, 60-day ceasefire extension, permanent war-ending negotiations to follow. Trump had not yet given final approval. Iran had not yet confirmed acceptance. On May 29th, Trump posted his conditions publicly on Truth Social and announced he was entering the Situation Room to make a final determination. The meeting ended after 2 hours with no decision. On May 31st, the day before this report, the United States struck Iranian drones and a launch site around the crucial Strait of Hormuz. Iran fired toward an unnamed US base in Kuwait. Tehran warned that any aggression or ceasefire violation by the US military will be met with force. Trump insisted his administration is still not satisfied with the terms of the deal. The US Treasury simultaneously announced it had seized approximately $1 billion in Iranian cryptocurrency. Economic warfare, military strikes, diplomatic negotiation, all 3 happening on the same day. Vice President Vance told reporters on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews, and we quote directly, "I think it's hard to say exactly when or if the president is going to sign the MOU. We're going back and forth on a couple of language points. There are a couple of issues on the nuclear stuff, the highly enriched stockpile, and also the question of enrichment. We do think they're negotiating, at least so far, in good faith. When or if, that is where the deal stands as this report goes live. The full documented terms of the MOU, a 60-day ceasefire extension, Strait of Hormuz unrestricted with no tolls, mines cleared within 30 days, naval blockade lifted gradually, Iran's commitment to never seek nuclear weapons, enrichment and stockpile to be negotiated, are agreed at the negotiator level. They are not yet signed by either leader, and as of this morning, the reason is specific. An Israeli intelligence source confirmed that Iran's supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has not said yes. His negotiators reached agreement. He did not authorize it. The deal sits waiting for one man's signature, a man who has been invisible since February 28th, a man the framework has been tracking across 93 days of documented watching. The Daniel 825 Satchkil pattern, crafty, dealing through arrangements so complex that separating public and private interests becomes genuinely impossible from the outside, is at its most visible documented moment. Kushner co-drafts the MOU. Kushner manages $6.2 billion from the nations the MOU affects. Both things are happening simultaneously. The deal waits for a man in the shadows to authorize it. Batach assessed at 25 to 30%. The MOU signed would push toward 35 to 40%. It has not been signed. Chapter 3. What Batach actually requires. We have used the word Batach since issue 1. Here is precisely what the text requires. Ezekiel 38 verse 11. God describes the condition of Israel when Gog launches his attack. The Hebrew word is betach, confidence, security, safety. Israel will be living in unwalled villages, without bars or gates, in confident rest. 3 things must simultaneously be true. Iran neutralized as an existential threat, Hezbollah disarmed or sufficiently degraded, and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states normalized with Israel to the point where Israel's regional position is commercially and diplomatically secure on all sides. None of those 3 conditions is fully met today. The Iran MOU, if signed, begins the first. The Lebanon thread, the second blocker, has significantly deteriorated. This morning, Israeli forces captured Beaufort Castle near Nabatea in southern Lebanon, a 12th century Crusader fortress perched above the Litani River. Israel last captured this castle in 1982 under Ariel Sharon, and then pushed all the way north to Beirut. Israeli troops are now pushing to the Zaharani River, 6 miles north of the Litany, their deepest advance into Lebanon in 26 years. France called an emergency UN Security Council meeting this morning. Countries across Europe condemned it as a dangerous escalation. The UN Security Council convenes on Lebanon today. The same day this report goes live, the Iran thread and the Lebanon thread are moving in opposite directions on the same day. Iran requires Lebanon to be included in any MOU. Trump told Netanyahu he supports Israel's freedom of action in Lebanon. These two positions are directly incompatible. The MOU cannot be fully signed while this gap exists. Saudi normalization remains the third and furthest condition. Trump pushed it on a regional call on May 23rd. Saudi Arabia went silent. The framework places the Gog-Magog event at Tishri 2029, 1,226 days from today. The path toward that date requires all three detached conditions to be met. Today, only the first is even in active negotiation. The second is deteriorating in real time. The third has not yet begun. The path is visible. The progress is real. The instability today is also real. The framework documents both without overstating either. Chapter 4. The Pope, Gandalf and the War. Nobody noticed. This is the chapter of Issue 3 that no other channel is telling you about. On May 25th, 2026, Shavuot, the Feast of the Covenant, Pope Leo XV released his first encyclical, 245 paragraphs. The first encyclical in Catholic history devoted to a single technology, artificial intelligence. He declared autonomous weapons not permissible. He declared just war theory outdated. He called for AI to be, his word, disarmed. He extended Catholic doctrine to cover algorithms, platforms, and data as goods subject to the common good, binding on 1.4 billion people. And in paragraph 213, in the chapter titled The Culture of Power and the Civilization of Love, the Pope quoted a wizard. The Vatican footnoted it precisely. Footnote 187, J.R.R. Tolkien, The Return of the King, Part 3, Book 5, Chapter 9, New York, 1965, page 190. Here are the words, spoken by Gandalf the White to the Hobbit Merry on the eve of the final battle. It is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. The Pope then added his own line immediately after. The civilization of love will not arise from a single or spectacular gesture, but from the sum total of small and steadfast acts of fidelity that serve as a bulwark against dehumanization. Book 5, Chapter 9 of The Return of the King is titled The Last Debate. It is the chapter immediately before the final assault on the Black Gate of Mordor, the chapter before the final battle against the Dark Lord. Leo XIV placed this speech in the chapter of his encyclical condemning autonomous weapons and AI in warfare, in the same chapter where he declared the race to build those weapons is driven by dehumanizing ambition. Now let us ask the question a published Catholic commentary was already asking 3 days after the encyclical dropped. Is this a veiled rebuke of Peter Thiel? Peter Thiel, co-founder of Palantir, funder of Anduril Industries, creator of J.D. Vance, through a $15 million political investment, Bilderberg steering committee member, documented in thousands of Jeffrey Epstein files with a $40 million investment from Epstein in his Valar Ventures fund. Peter Thiel has read The Lord of the Rings at least 10 times. His company Palantir is named for the seeing stones in Tolkien's mythology. In the books, the Palantiri are crystal balls used by the Dark Lord Sauron to surveil, manipulate, and rob his victims of hope and agency. Thiel named his global surveillance AI company, now valued at $273 billion, after Sauron's instrument of control. His company Anduril, the autonomous weapons manufacturer whose Arsenal One facility just went live in Columbus, Ohio, producing tens of thousands of autonomous systems annually, is named for Aragorn's sword, the weapon of the returning king. The man who funded the beast system's eyes chose the Dark Lord's surveillance instrument as his company name. The man who funded the beast system's sword chose the returning king's weapon, both named for objects from the same mythology the Pope just quoted against both of them. The Catholic publication where Peter is published their analysis on May 28th, 3 days after the encyclical's release. Their conclusion in their own words, given Thiel's obsession with the series, the mere existence of a reference to the Lord of the Rings in a papal encyclical about AI could be reason enough to speculate that the passage was a veiled papal rebuke. But upon reviewing the context of the cited passage, the connection to Thiel becomes hard to refute. There is one more documented layer. In March 2026, 2 months before Magnifica Humanitas dropped, Peter Thiel delivered secret lectures on the Antichrist at Catholic institutions in Rome, at the Vatican's doorstep, arguing that the Antichrist comes not as a person, but as a global AI governance system exploiting existential fears. Catholic institutions distance themselves, the Vatican noticed, and Thiel has reportedly expressed concern that Vice President J.D. Vance, the Catholic convert whose career he funded, is becoming too close to the Pope. The man who funded the beast system's infrastructure is worried his political creation is getting too close to the institution that just used his own mythology against him. The True God Code framework's reading, stated plainly and held honestly. The institution the framework identifies as the harlot track candidate formally claimed moral authority over the AI infrastructure. The framework documents as the beast system. She did it by speaking the language of the man who built it, his mythology, his wizard, the chapter before the final battle, and she used Gandalf to say, "This race, driven by dehumanizing ambition, is not what this mythology is for. The harlot does not build the beast system. She does not stop it. She claims the authority to define what it means. She rides it and uses its own symbols to establish her governance over it." That is Revelation 17, documented on Shavuot, Vatican footnote 187. Chapter 5. The beast system is building everything in the last chapter describes the harlot claiming authority over a system that is already real and already building. Here is the current state of that system. Arsenal 1 went live ahead of schedule this month. The autonomous weapons manufacturing facility Anduril describes as hyperscale, eventually encompassing 5 million square feet in Columbus, Ohio, producing tens of thousands of autonomous systems annually. Funded by Josh Kushner's Thrive Capital, the same firm that invested $1 billion in OpenAI. This month, a new connection was documented and confirmed. OpenAI and Anduril Industries announced a direct partnership to develop and deploy advanced artificial intelligence solutions for national security missions. The partnership integrates OpenAI's AI models with Anduril's defense systems and Lattice software platform. The brain and the sword formally partnered. The false prophet candidate's company and the weapons company funded by the Little Horn candidate's brother, now directly integrated at the product level. The framework's layer assessment as of June 1st, 2026. The covenant architecture, diplomacy, Board of Peace, Abraham Accords, the Iran MOU assessed at 55%. The Iran MOU signed and Lebanon stabilized would push this towards 60%. Neither has occurred. The cognitive layer, AI governance infrastructure, OpenAI deployment company, BrainCo, OpenAI for countries, assessed at 62%. The autonomous weapons layer, Arsenal 1 Live, Lattice in Army rollout, the $20 billion contract running to the 70th week midpoint, assessed at 80%. The highest of any layer, the surveillance layer, Palantir, Lattice, Golden Dome, satellite constellation, Exoanalytic 400 telescopes, assessed at 76%. The digital identity and financial layer, World ID with 10 million enrollments in 40 countries, Stripe, Plaid, the digital financial infrastructure stack, assessed at 47%. The religious legitimacy layer, the Vatican, Magnifica Humanitas, the Interdicasterial Commission on AI, the Tolkien Confrontation, assessed at 40%, upgraded this month from 33%, the most significant single-layer upgrade in the framework's watch period. Chapter 6. What the framework currently reads. The True God Code framework has been active since February 28th, 93 days of documented watching. Here is what those 93 days have produced. The Daniel 8 sequence opened on February 28th with Operation Epic Fury. Documented. The Board of Peace was chartered in January with UN Security Council authorization. Documented. Jared Kushner was appointed Special Envoy for Peace in February. Documented. He is the documented co-author of the 14-point Iran MOU across every negotiating round. Documented. Arsenal 1 went live in May. Documented. OpenAI and Anduril partnered in May. Documented. The Vatican released the most significant AI governance document in religious history on Shavuot. Documented. With a Tolkien quote aimed at the man who named his companies for objects from the same mythology. Confirmed by a published Catholic commentary 3 days later. On the day this report goes live, Israel captured a Crusader castle in Lebanon. The UN Security Council convenes in emergency session. The Iran MOU is unsigned because the man governing Iran from the shadows has not said yes. The US struck Iranian targets yesterday while simultaneously negotiating peace with them. And in 10 days, the FIFA World Cup opens on American soil. The footballer kicking the world from outside the frame on The Economist's 2026 cover becomes reality in front of a global audience. The season before 2033 is not moving in a straight line. It is moving the way seasons always move, with pressure, resistance, advance, and retreat. What the framework documents is the direction, not the daily oscillation. The direction is toward 2033. Every development this month confirms the architecture is real and building. None of it has arrived at the destination yet. The anchor date has not moved. April 14, 2033. 2,514 days from today. 21 confirmed streams, possibly 22, point to it. NASA confirms the blood moon. The arithmetic confirms the 2,520-day closure to Sukkot 2040. The hostile witness of the Talmud confirms it from the opposition's own framework without Christian motivation. The season before 2033 looks exactly like what the text said it would look like when it arrived. Chapter 7. 4 predictions before issue 4. We will be back in July. Here are 4 specific predictions, not just watch items. We will grade every one of them in issue 4. Prediction 1. The Iran MOU gets signed before July 1st. The pressure from both sides is too great to sustain the current state indefinitely. Both sides need the deal. The question is whether Mojtabi authorizes it. Our prediction, he does. Watch for any public appearance or official statement from Iran's supreme leader in June. If Mojtabi emerges publicly and endorses the framework, it signs within 48 hours. Prediction 2. Lebanon escalates before it stabilizes. Israel captured Beaufort Castle this morning. France called an emergency UN Security Council meeting. The June 2nd and 3 direct talks are proceeding into a deteriorating situation. Our prediction, the talks produce a framework, not a resolution. Lebanon does not stabilize in June. It becomes the dominant story of July. Prediction 3. A Fund 2 signal emerges from affinity partners. August 2026 is 73 days away. Gulf Sovereign Wealth Fund investors can walk or recommit. Pre-marketing for Fund 2 is already underway with Saudi PIF. Watch for any Bloomberg or Reuters reporting on affinity capital raising in June. If Saudi PIF recommits while Kushner is co-drafting war-ending frameworks, that is the Satchkill pattern at maximum documentation. Prediction 4. The August 12th Spain eclipse enters mainstream consciousness. 73 days from today, the first total eclipse in mainland Europe since 1999 crosses northern Spain. Our prediction, at least one major outlet asks in June, why 3 eclipses are crossing Spain in 18 months? When they do, the framework's eclipse video is the answer they find. We will grade all 4 in July. Chapter 8. What this means for Christians. Everything in this report, the diplomacy, the weapons, the AI, the encyclical, the Crusader castle captured this morning, is real and documented. The framework does not require supernatural faith to observe any of it. The evidence stands on congressional records, NASA data, court documents, and published sources. But, for those of you who are Christians watching this season, this chapter is for you. The texts the True God Code framework works from are your texts. Daniel is your prophet. Revelation is your book. The feast calendar is your Lord's biography. The blood moon of April 3rd, AD 33, is the sign over the moment that changed everything for you personally. And the blood moon of April 14th, 2033 is its mirror, the sign the same author placed in the sky 2,000 solar years later, pointing at the opening of the final chapter. What does it mean to be a Christian living in this season? It does not mean fear. The text is not a fear document. Revelation is the apocalypse, from the Greek apocalypsis, which means unveiling, not catastrophe, disclosure. The book was written to show God's people what is happening behind the visible world, so they are not surprised by it and not shaken by it. It means watching with clear eyes. The framework's instruction, we do not interpret, we decipher, then we watch, is a Christian discipline as much as an analytical one. The Bereans in Acts 17 received the word with eagerness and examined the scriptures daily to see if these things were so. That is the posture. Eager, examining, not credulous and not dismissive. It means living faithfully in the fields, you know. The Pope chose Tolkien for a reason. Gandalf spoke those words on the eve of the assault on the Black Gate, not because he did not believe the king would return, but because the ordinary people around him needed to know that faithfulness in the small fields was enough. The king would handle the rest. That is the instruction for Christians in this season. Not to be paralyzed by the scale of what is coming, not to be consumed by the intelligence report, but to tend the fields within reach, your family, your community, your faith, your witness, with the seriousness that comes from understanding the season. It means holding 2033 without gripping it. The framework makes no date predictions. It documents convergences. April 14, 2033 is the most precisely confirmed convergence the framework has found. Whether it marks the opening of Daniel's 70th week is held honestly at the confidence level the evidence supports. What is certain is that the king returns. The text says so. The feast calendar confirms it. The arithmetic from the anchor date produces Sukkot 2040. He was born at the feast of temporary dwelling. He is returning at the feast of permanent dwelling. For Christians, the framework ends not with a warning, but with a promise. The same text that describes the beast system, the covenant confirmer, the false prophet, the mark, the tribulation, also describes what comes after. The second coming of the King of Kings, the judgment of nations, the binding of the adversary, the millennial reign from Jerusalem, every tear wiped away by his own hand. Death no more, sorrow no more, pain no more. The curse of Genesis 3 fully reversed. The river of life, the tree of life, available to all. The framework watches the darkness because it knows what follows the darkness. The season before 2033 looks like this. What follows 2040 looks like Revelation 21. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. If issue 3 gave you something worth sharing, please do. This information belongs to everyone asking these questions, not just the people who already found it. Every share matters. Leave a comment below with the thread that hit you hardest this month. Subscribe if you have not already. Hit the notification bell, and we will see you in July. We do not interpret, we decipher. Then we watch. True God Code, Monthly Intelligence Report, Issue 3, June 1st, 2026, 2,514 days, to April 14th, 2033. All factual claims sourced. All prophetic identifications held at stated confidence levels, not doctrine. We do not interpret, we decipher, then we watch.